All right, good evening, everybody. Fox 17 Chief Meteorologist Katie Morgan with you. And wanted to bring you a quick update here on what we're seeing as far as Hurricane Melissa goes, as it has had quite a day today, record setting. In fact, the strongest Atlantic landfall, tying it. And made landfall earlier this afternoon around 1 p.m. That was Eastern Daylight Time near New Hope, Jamaica. So this is where we stand now. The max winds at landfall, by the way, were at 185 miles per hour. Just an incredible storm here that is not done yet, unfortunately. In fact, in the last couple of scans here, what we're looking at is infrared satellite. And by the way, if you head to my Facebook page or my Instagram page or on TikTok as well, I just put together an elementary crash course on different types of satellite to kind of help you understand what you're looking at here, because I know these satellite images have been what you've seen a lot of over the last 24 hours. So again, these, I think, the little crash course would be real helpful to understand what you're actually seeing. So this one here is actually infrared satellite. Now, the infrared satellite imagery is going to have either a black and white color to it, or it's going to have what you see here, like an enhanced color. And that is using satellite sensors to determine how cold cloud tops are. So we can see this during the day or during the nighttime. So when we're looking at nighttime events, which goes for thunderstorm activity too, infrared is what we're using for satellite data to get the information we need. Russell, thanks so much for tuning in tonight. As always, too, you can comment below here. Russell commenting from Facebook. I really like the picture of your dog too. Very cute. So again, thank you for joining me. I just thought I'd, again, briefly go over what we're seeing here with Melissa, and we'll talk too about our weather here locally. So here's Hurricane Melissa again. This is over a several hour loop. I believe it is actually a 12-hour. Just about 12-hour loop. So did make landfall earlier this afternoon. And once again, it makes landfall. It began to weaken considerably. And that is due to, look at that eye, by the way, just an incredible, near perfect eye that came across New Hope and across much of Jamaica there. So there it is from this afternoon, and then made its way towards Montego Bay before re-emerging back into the Caribbean. And over the last few scans, we've started to see that eye wall perk up again. So this storm has an intense and an enormous amount of energy to work with. The ocean waters primed for development, and one of the reasons why we had this intense intensification of Melissa over the last 36 even 48 hours. So now our eyes are set on Cuba, and we're expecting a landfall here with the potential for re-intensification before making that secondary landfall in Cuba overnight tonight into early Wednesday. Now, the latest advisory time you can see on the map showing winds at 125 miles per hour, so Category 3 hurricane at this point, moving to the northeast at 8 miles per hour, and pressure has gone up considerably. Melissa was breaking records, record landfall here, and the third strongest hurricane, tied for the third strongest hurricane in the Atlantic Basin of all times. Third behind, by the way, Wilma in 2005, which had a lowest pressure of 882 millibars. And then in 1988, Gilbert had a low pressure of 888 millibars. Melissa today had 892. So that ties it with the Labor Day hurricane of 1935 in the Florida Keys with the lowest millibar pressure reading of 892. So an incredible storm again that still has the potential to re-intensify as we head towards Cuba. So here's Cuba. I'm going to put a track on it here so we can get an idea of what the latest from the National Hurricane Center is showing it. And you may or may not know, but the National Hurricane Center, of course, based out of Miami, Florida, but covers all of the Atlantic for hurricanes. So even though we're talking about Jamaica and the Caribbean here and Cuba, they're issuing the advisories for Melissa here. And the latest one coming out at 7 o'clock again, 125 mile per hour winds, Category 3 hurricane. I'm going to open this up and kind of slowly move it along so we can see here. So the Hurricane Center does actually have this re-intensifying before making landfall. Again, overnight tonight. This would be, if I move this back, we're looking at about midnight. So 12 hours after the first landfall in Jamaica, we are anticipating a second landfall near just off the coast of Cuba here. And that'll be 12 a.m., 1 a.m. So these, again, 1 a.m. Wednesday Eastern time with 140-mile-per-hour winds, and that would make it a Category 4. I'm also over here looking at some of our comments. Let's see here, just to see what we are looking at. La, la, la. Michelle, I see your comment here. Why didn't they do this with Alaska? That's what I want to know. I'm assuming why the Hurricane Center did not issue a hurricane, is if that's what I'm guessing correctly here. As far as I know, I don't think they actually had a hurricane, but they've had a couple big storms, but they're not technically hurricanes. Again, these are tropical systems that we're talking about here, and they need warm ocean waters to thrive. And in Alaska, we had a couple huge and powerful storms move through, but they weren't technically hurricanes. So that's out of the National Hurricane Center purview. I hope that answers your question there. But let's move this forward here through the next couple of days. So as we get more into Wednesday evening, Wednesday afternoon, this begins to move more into the Bahamas. And beyond the Bahamas, still a major hurricane, Category 3 hurricane, until we get into Thursday. And it will start to track to the north and to the east, away from the U.S. So I do want to stress that this is not going to be a problem or direct impact for the U.S., but we'll likely see some rip currents, some impacts with higher surf and waves up and down the eastern seaboard. But unfortunately, it's possible that we could find impact with Bermuda, and Bermuda has been hit hard already this year. And it looks like it's a potential that we could have another strong hurricane moving close to Bermuda. And notice the side that it's on here too. So Bermuda right there, there it is right there. And when you get it when the hurricane passes you on the right side, that right front quadrant, again, is going to be the more intense winds and power from the hurricane that we typically see. So that wouldn't be good news for Bermuda. So we'll be keeping a very close eye on Bermuda as well. But this takes us to the end of the week, and then it'll continue out into the Atlantic. Again, no direct impact here in the U.S., but unfortunately continues to be a serious situation for those in Jamaica, and then eventually to Cuba. And even parts of Hispaniola in Haiti, and then into the Bahamas, not seeing as much impact, but still some significant impacts here. This is a new product from our weather software that we have from Barron Weather, and this is the Extreme Weather Index. So what this is showing is what, in this case, winds. It can do other things like rain, precipitation totals, and that sort of thing. But how outside the norm winds are going to be compared to average. So basically, when we're looking at hurricanes, we're looking at where the strongest winds are likely to occur within the storm. At last check from the National Hurricane Center, hurricane force winds, bear with me for a minute, I've got their key messages up, but I want to see their public advisory. This was at 8 o'clock this evening. The storm now 50 miles northeast of Montego Bay, Jamaica, or about 160 miles to the southwest of Guantanamo, Cuba. Max sustained winds at 125 miles per hour. And the hurricane force winds still around, again, 125, minimal central pressure 950. So again, this is the latest, you're just tuning in, this is the latest advisory that I'm reading off. With the hurricane watches are in effect, still in a very dangerous situation. They're even telling folks in Jamaica to remain in your shelters, as ongoing flash flooding is going to be a big problem. But as the last check I saw, hurricane force winds were about 39 to 40 miles outside. Okay, so here they are. Hurricane force winds as of the 8 o'clock advisory extend outward up to 30 miles. So the storm itself, as far as the hurricane force winds, so winds in excess of 73 miles per hour, extending 30 miles from the center of the storm. Oops, I got the wrong mouse here. We'll go back to the imagery. And interesting to note, and I had a couple other folks comment on this as well, that it doesn't look as large as other storms. Every storm is different. This one is a little more compact, but it is mighty in its strength. And those, again, hurricane force winds are extending about 30 miles from the center of the storm, and may increase in coverage a little more now that it's getting back out into open water. But again, over the last several hours, the wind speeds have decreased quite a bit, because you think about all of the mountainous terrain in Jamaica, and then again, once it hits Cuba, we'll see that weakening again. That mountainous terrain is going to play a big role in the intensification. So once it makes landfall, we'll start to see it to weaken considerably. But once it makes its way back out into the sea again, out into the Atlantic, going into the Bahamas, it's possible we could see it re-strengthen once again. So there's a lot with this system that when it continues to move to the north and east here the next couple of days. So this is our extreme wind index, and this is taking us through tomorrow morning. You notice where more of the intense winds will be over Cuba by tomorrow morning here. We'll extend this out, and you can see that we're looking at extreme winds over the Bahamas as well, and then that'll continue to the north and to the east as we head more into the end of the week. Here's a look at some of the rainfall. This, I think, deserves a lot of coverage here. The National Hurricane Center forecasting upwards to a foot, if not more, rainfall for Cuba, unfortunately. And this is likely to occur overnight tonight and into much of tomorrow too. So anywhere between a foot to about 16 inches of rain possible, especially in some mountain terrain, and all that rainfall is going to fall and then create a lot of mudslides and flash flooding concerns for folks in Cuba. And then that extends into, I got all my labels moving, but that'll extend into the Bahamas as well, where we're looking at the potential for rainfall totals over a foot of rain. And that's going to create a lot of problems for those in the path of this storm here. Let me go over here and just check out our comments. Again, thank you for tuning in tonight. Just kind of an impromptu, real casual chat on Melissa, and just kind of telling you what I see for tonight. So we're definitely, unfortunately for folks in the Caribbean, this definitely not over with yet. And will be another few days before it has cleared, Wednesday and into Thursday, really, before it's cleared much of this area. This is another look at our wind products. And what I did here was actually take off all of the other clutter out in the open waters. So we're focused on land. And these kind of colorful rainbow contours that you see here are future wind speeds. So as we get into overnight tonight, after midnight and 1 a.m., all of these brown colors that you're seeing here, that is the second landfall. Now, for those that are watching this hour by hour before that second landfall, remember that landfall does not occur until the center of the storm has crossed over. So that first part of the eye wall will make landfall first, but it is officially not on land or has not made landfall until the center of the storm, as dictated by the National Hurricane Center, has crossed onto land. And that will be the official landfall for the second landfall expected in Cuba. So again, if you're joining us here, this is Cuba. And we get into, notice your timestamp too, takes us up to about midnight tonight. And we get more into Wednesday morning. We're still looking at hurricane force winds here from much of the island. Forecast to come ashore in Cuba overnight as a Category 4 hurricane. And then will continue to be a very intense storm as it works its way across some mountainous terrain. But notice it's a narrow strip of land before it reemerges back out into the Atlantic, and the potential for reintensification as it moves over the Bahamas, expecting it to be quite intense here as we get more into Wednesday afternoon, and then into Wednesday evening and into Thursday. What you're seeing here, the circle, that is the wind velocity, or the winds, and the center of circulation of the hurricane itself. So that's what we're seeing here as far as Hurricane Melissa goes. Just for a little perspective, rare to see a Category 5 hurricane, but this is the third Category 5 hurricane of the 2025 season, which is pretty impressive. And not only that, but we're looking at this at the very tail end, really, of hurricane season. We get to the peak of hurricane season, which is typically September 10th. And then as we get more into October, late October and into early November, really starts to drop off. Not unheard of to see these late October, early November hurricanes, but a Category 5 is definitely in rare territory. Here's a look too, a list I thought was interesting from 1900 to 2024, the top six strongest hurricanes. Does not include Melissa here, but this is by pressure. So the top 6 strongest hurricanes by pressure: Hurricane Patricia in 2015, wind speeds were up to 110 miles per hour. And this one was in the East Pacific. So this includes both East Pacific, which would be, I think Hurricane Patricia was off the coast of Mexico, if I believe, if I'm thinking correctly here. So yeah, this one, it was in the Eastern Pacific. But then Wilma, of course, was in the Atlantic. That was in 2005. Lowest pressure was 882. Hurricane Gilbert was after that with 888. The Labor Day hurricane ties with Melissa. So Melissa also has had winds at 185 miles per hour and a lowest pressure reading of 892. And then we round that out with Rita and Milton, which, if you look at the dates again, by the way, have occurred within the past 25 years. So Milton, Rita, Melissa, Wilma, and Patricia have all occurred in the last 25 years, top strongest hurricanes by pressure. So an interesting statistic. But again, this has been just hard to watch as far as the satellite imagery goes. And now we're starting to see some videos come out from Jamaica, and our hearts really go out to all the people that are going through this, because it is devastating to see on satellite imagery here. So we will continue to watch Melissa overnight. In fact, the latest again coming out, the advisory time here, it's 9 o'clock. So the next update, which does include a new forecast cone, will come out in about an hour from now. So we will keep an eye on it here, but it does look like it is starting to get its act together once again after moving over Jamaica and making its way towards Cuba, where we expect a landfall later tonight. Most likely around midnight, if not going into a very early Wednesday morning. Bork asking if this is a Category 5. It was at landfall. Melissa was a Category 5 at landfall. Now it is currently a Category 3 hurricane, but the National Hurricane Center does expect it to re-intensify, or at least is forecasting it to intensify just before that second landfall happening just after midnight here around the south side of Cuba, the southern coast of Cuba. So that's what I have for you for tonight. Again, as far as our weather is concerned, locally, we have another round of rain moving in as we head through the overnight hours. I'll quickly show you the radar here, because I've been watching this area of low pressure to our west, which is going to keep the gloomy weather around for us, and the rainy weather. So there it is. And I'll put that in motion so you can see that we'll continue to see showers coming in through the overnight. Most intense, I think, through tomorrow morning. And then as we head into Wednesday afternoon, they'll remain kind of off and on in a scattered activity. But the good news is there's no severe weather threat with this. This is just some good beneficial rain. We really need it. and it looks like we're going to get it. So good inch of rain in a lot of spots as we head into Wednesday afternoon and Wednesday evening before clearing. Halloween looking good too. We'll be in the low 60s. Sunshine will return, and overall the weekend looking pretty good as well. All right, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you guys have a good evening. We're going to be on after the baseball. I've got the baseball game on in the weather office right now. So we will be on tonight after the baseball game concludes. Looks like Toronto's up 3-1. And right now, okay, we're in the top of the 7th. So we'll see. We'll see if the Dodgers can come back like last night and tie it up, which made for a very long night. 18 innings. It was crazy. All right, guys, thanks so much for tuning in. We will see you after the baseball game tonight.